With the recent release of Counter-Strike 2, I wanted to look back at a game that was very much overlooked for many reasons, and one that felt like it could have been something truly special. Or maybe not. In 1998, Half-Life, one of the most influential first-person shooters, was released, and it would later spawn countless add-ons and expansions, as well as mods and a large modding community. From this community came our beloved Counter-Strike, which was created by Min Gooseman Lee and Jess Cliff in 1999. Such was the success of Counter-Strike that Valve bought the rights to the IP in the year 2000 after a deal with both the creators and offering them jobs at Valve. Not bad. Fast forward beyond the success of Counter-Strike's initial launch, with newer released updates like the famous 1.6 update, and we have one of the most played multiplayer shooters in recent times. In 2004, before Counter-Strike's Source, there was a game that didn't seem to get the reception it was after at the time, a little game called Counter-Strike Condition Zero. This was like a polished version of the vanilla game, and it even included practice matches that you could set up and play against bots, before jumping into the real thing online. However, this isn't what I'll be covering today though, as there was a second portion that came with this game, under the name Deleted Scenes. Just pretend it says Deleted Scenes on the screen, and anyway. Deleted Scenes was essentially a single player campaign for Counter-Strike that included the weapons and equipment from the online game, plus adding some new elements to make it a unique experience. This always sounded interesting to me, and I never got a chance to play it when it came out, so when I saw it on Steam more recently, I decided to finally give it a shot. I think this game got glazed over in 2004, which is why I never got a chance to play it. It was the same year that Half-Life 2 and Doom 3 came out, and even though I absolutely love Half-Life mods, and the Gold Source engine brings a great level of nostalgia, the engine was a little out of date by 2004 standards. Just a year earlier we had Call of Duty, which was using the more up-to-date Quake 3 engine, which was more commonly used in games in the early 2000s. Well, despite the graphics, let's check this game out. So the game has 12 missions in the story mode, even though there are additional levels that can be accessed with the world map, like the Miami Heat stage, or the Japanese subway stage. So in total, there's about 18 missions. Upon further research on the Counter-Strike wiki page, I've come to learn that there was a bit of a passing around with the deleted scenes portion of Condition Zero, and a lot of quality control as well. The game was developed by Ritual Entertainment, which was then passed on to Total Rock Studios, who of the original 18 missions, made by Ritual Entertainment, chose 12 of the best missions and kept those in the game as part of the original campaign. The additional missions would later be released with updates. It also mentions that Valve did a lot of final edits and foolproofing of the missions to ensure that they were polished and ready to go. A lot of the missions start off in a very Half-Life Opposing Force fashion, with most of them starting off in a helicopter, being briefed alongside your fellow soldiers until something goes completely wrong, and all of a sudden you're shot down and deep within enemy territory. Also, just like Half-Life or the original Counter-Strike, there's also a training level that teaches you how to play the game, and use some of the new gadgets as well.
Hello, and welcome to the Counter-Terrorist Special Training Facility. Please proceed to the elevator. They are waiting for you in the training areas.
They're waiting for you, Gordon, in the test chamber.
One of my first impressions of this game, unfortunately, was how dull and simplistic the enemy AI feels. It feels like a lot of the times you're just entering rooms with a bunch of copy-pasted soldiers, who will either stand perfectly still, or run straight towards you. Now, this is nothing against it being an older engine, or being released almost 20 years ago, as other games during this time were, well, a little more polished with the enemy AI. I remember the gunfights in Half-Life against the government soldiers always felt well designed, and a lot of fun to go against. There might be a few reasons for this, however. One being that in the original Half-Life, you weren't always fighting the soldiers, so their encounters felt special, and it broke up the puzzle segments or when you were fighting the alien enemies. The other thing is, I feel like each area with the soldiers were perfectly crafted with flanking routes in mind, and specific areas where the soldiers would take cover. Anyone who remembers the Worldcraft level editor would remember placing AI nodes on the map to make the fights more dynamic. In Condition Zero, because the human enemies are the only enemy types that you'll encounter, it does feel a little more repetitive, but also far less clever in terms of the AI. Not only that, but in Half-Life, the segments where you fought the enemy soldiers had maybe up to 6 enemies in one area, let's say. In Condition Zero, there are dozens and dozens of enemies throughout each stage, at times almost feeling like they added an enemy in every nook and cranny just for the sake of filling up a stage. More action means more fun, right? Take this segment for example. I'm more than certain the enemy spawns when you look away, and not that he runs into the corner just as I look away.
Hello there.
Comparisons aside, the guns don't feel too bad in terms of what's expected. A lot of the guns feel the way they did in Counter-Strike, but a little altered. Controlled shots give you more accuracy than just holding down the fire button, and headshots, for the most part, offer more damage. However, this never seems to be the case with shotguns for some reason. Shotguns should feel a lot more blasty from close range, but it seems to be hit and miss for some reason in this game. The selection of weapons is nice though, and some stages have hidden or hard to reach places that rewards you with guns you may not find anywhere else in the stage. I found myself using the M60 whenever I could, and at least this had increased accuracy compared to the LMGs in Counter-Strike. But I guess being a single player game, the weapon balancing isn't as big an issue. It's more like a reward for the player in this case. The gameplay is predominantly run and gun, with only a few areas that I would consider beneficial to actually take cover and aim your shots. The early 2000s were an interesting transitional period for FPSs, a lot of them moving on to either the more tactical route, like Rainbow Six, while others remaining to be a lot more fast-paced like Doom and Quake before them. Deleted Scenes is definitely more run and gun than tactical, but it does try to tell you to control your shots more. And anyone who has played any iteration of Counter-Strike will know that controlled shots are far more accurate than just spraying and praying. And oftentimes it does feel like it's actually beneficial to stand still and fire controlled bursts. I have to say, I do like the level of detail in the characters, especially the special forces. I'm not too familiar with the real-life counterparts, but it looks like a great level of detail was put into the look of the uniforms and equipment, and it looks great for the Gold Source engine. After I played about 8 missions, the game did start to grow on me. The gameplay I got down pat, and I was even okay with the cheap one-hit kill areas that the game threw in, because I then knew it was there and learned how to get past it. Also because it's so typically Half-Life. There's also at least a couple of bosses who are just normal dudes with body armor, but are an absolute bullet sponge because they're a boss. There is also a fair amount of humor thrown in, whether intentional or not, especially with the voice acting. It feels like it would have been a lot of fun making this game. Have a listen to some of the voice acting.
My hands are freezing. I hope nobody tries to get in this place. I don't think I could pull the trigger with these fingers.
No problem. We could always throw icicles at an intruder.
I have many fine products. I have many fine products.
You kids have no respect. I hope you kick his ass. That little punk. I think he bent my rim.
What?
Some of the level design in this is really good too. Graphics aside, I felt like the levels where you visit specific countries actually looked unique to one another, and not just another generic desert or city level. And the level layout, while linear of course, felt cohesive. Most of them are quite simple in terms of objectives, where it's either saving a VIP or retrieving an item, etc. But some of the locales are quite unique and stand out from the other stages. I particularly like the urban stages, like the Italy, Japan, or Northern Ireland stages. The Gold Source engine always seemed to look better with indoor levels, as was prevalent in Half-Life, where the interior labs and offices always look better than the outdoor canyon levels, and the same can be said in Deleted Scenes. I even stopped at moments just to admire how well the stages looked, and I kinda wish I got to play this way back when too. The office setting in the hilariously named stage, Rise Hard, don't we all, gave me a strange sense of warmth that comes with the Gold Source engine. Maybe it's nostalgia, or maybe there's something about the engine that does it. Gold Warm? I don't know. I feel like it needs a name. Kinda like how real-world items in Doom are called Doom Cute.
So cute.
I really like the Japanese subway stage, Fastline. Even the simple addition of a riot shield just breaks up the playstyle a little. The details are quite good as well. It looks like they pushed the engine quite high, especially in texture quality. It's also clear that this stage could have been the original opening as well, as the title card also appears in the stage. I think the weakest mission, and one that was originally cut, was the one involving using stealth. Now, Half-Life was never meant to be a stealth game, and modding a stealth mechanic that runs well in a non-stealth game would be no easy task. I ended up save scumming a lot in this stage, saving after even clearing just one room, and immediately saving after I rescued a hostage. The concept and ideas for this stage are great, however. Having to peek through doors and around corners with your snake cam, and planning how to sneak past the enemies. But the execution I think fell a little flat. I am still impressed, however, at the effort they did, all things considered. The game does have a lot of cool features which have been present in other Gold Source games, but something which I still admire. For example, shooting parts of specific walls or columns has chunks of debris flying out, or the way the scripted sequences would trigger a baddie falling out a window, or even landing on a big metal spike, were nice touches that added more of an action movie vibe to the game. It's kinda strange, this all felt tired and overdone back then, but now it feels like I'm stepping back to a very specific time in video game history, and just enjoying the stroll. I feel like I would have perhaps enjoyed this game more in 2004, but yet even then the game would have been even more played if it came out just a year or two after the original Counter-Strike. It came out at a time when the Gold Source engine was starting to fade into yesterday's news, but far too soon for people to have a genuine nostalgia for the Gold Source engine. But it's not the engine's fault at all, because this is a fun game, but not an amazing game either. Wait a second, I just remembered. I did play this game back in 2004. Yeah, I played a bit of the first level, and now I remember that I stopped playing it because, well, I didn't like it. It felt outdated back then, and while a single player campaign for Counter-Strike always sounded interesting, this one just didn't do it for me back then. Upon further research, this game was delayed multiple times, and was meant to come out earlier, which would have given it a stronger chance, I think. As for now, however, I have to admit, I enjoyed the game. Nostalgia probably helps, but I had fun with it. I'm glad I gave it a second chance. Despite the issues I had with this game, I can say this is a pretty fun game and something to definitely check out if you love Half-Life or Counter-Strike. It's usually really cheap on Steam as well, and if your curiosity gets the better of you, I say definitely check it out. But otherwise, it's not going to win any new players. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment and subscribe, and let me know what your thoughts are on Counter-Strike Condition Zero Deleted Scenes. Wow, that's a wordful.
What?